Welcome back to the UNICOM Engineering Flawless Execution podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney. As organizations increasingly harness AI capabilities, the focus has shifted dramatically from centralized processing to intelligent edge computing, where real-time decisions drive business value and innovation. In this episode, we will explore Dell Technologies' journey in bringing AI capabilities from the data center to the edge, examining how this transformation is revolutionizing industries through faster, more secure, and more efficient AI inferencing where data is created. And we're joined by John Green, Global Vice President of OEM Solutions, Sales Engineering at Dell Technologies, leading a world-class engineering organization. John and his team develop sophisticated OEM solutions for AI across industrial automation, healthcare, telecommunications, and space exploration sectors. With over 20 years of industry experience, John's leadership has been crucial in helping OEM customers successfully integrate AI capabilities into their edge solutions. So let's dive into the conversation. John, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, Michelle, what a great intro. Thanks. It's good to be here.
You have a lot of good things to say. Well, you don't, but you will in just a couple seconds. But we wanted to kind of get it out there to let people know a little bit about your background. But I would love for you to give us a little bit more of your background, if you wouldn't mind. So can you give us a brief bio in your words, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, after my departure from my proud Oklahoma Sooners, I went into the high-tech world pretty quickly. I spent 10 years at Gateway, and I've been at Dell for about 18 years. So I guess this type of business is really the only thing that I know how to do. And it's been a phenomenal ride the entire way. All sorts of different things. They've run a lot of different businesses, which has given me some great perspective on how different types of companies, how the world operates, how the verticals expect us to be able to deliver on their behalf, from telco to service provider to alliance partners. But over the past 4 or so years, I've been heavily involved in our OEM business. And inside of Dell, think about the engine in the car. We don't sell to IT. Our part of the business is literally putting our IP inside of somebody else's IP so that their product is sellable. And besides the things that you mentioned before, there are just so many different places where we're the secret inside of whatever that happens to be, whether it's an MRI machine or a linear accelerator or launch controls for different space explorations. All those things, it doesn't say powered by Dell on the outside, but we are the instrumental pieces of the puzzle that kind of make the car go. And my engineers all over the world spend a tremendous amount of time with our customers, just working through developing what's going to help those products sell for our end customer.
So clearly we have the right man for the job for this podcast and the topic at hand. So we're happy to have you here, John. So let's start off here. We are seeing an explosion of AI applications from large language models, LLMs, to computer vision. Will you define LLM customers, and how do you see the balance shifting to edge inferencing for AI? What's driving this evolution?
Yeah, it's been a couple years of craziness, really, as we've developed certain pieces of hardware that really enable our customers to build that first step, that large language model. And that was really derived for that public large language model. So I look at it in kind of 3 buckets. There's the initial large language models that we're seeing, the ChatGPTs of the world, the Geminis and the Copilots and all sorts of things like that, where there's this massive infrastructure being built out to go and learn and iterate off of that. But then, of course, you get to the point to where every company's thinking, oh my gosh, I can't have my employees putting questions into these public large language models and asking things that have our own IP at risk. So now how do we do that second bucket? How do we build our own private fenced off large language model? And you are seeing that explode across the enterprise. Even inside of Dell, there's hundreds and hundreds of different projects that are going on right now to better ourselves and how we're going to support our customers. But as we go from private to public, the inevitable is going to happen. And the inevitable is what is going to be at the edge. And we define edge as pretty much anything that's outside of the data center. So as all of this takes place and you have this giant brain, these large learning models that are inside or outside of a ring fence, you then have this expectation that, okay, at some point the data is going to be so massive, or the decisions are going to be made, need to be made so quickly that that's got to be closer to all of the end users. So the expectation from the Dell perspective is by 2030, we will see a 20x increase in the amount of non-data center devices that already exist today. So think about everything from your laptop to your cell phone to anything that's inside of little places and central offices for telcos and things that are outside of the core data center. There's a lot of devices out there, and we think that 20 times that amount will be filling the void for being able to drive the inferencing model going forward. And that inferencing is all sorts of things, from video cameras to autonomous vehicles and all the things that need to have a brain out at the edge that can do some of the understanding and some of the large language model inferencing that takes place to make the decision on the fly without having to take the bandwidth that goes back to the data center, without having to use the storage that it takes inside of a big data center. And gosh, that's kind of where we're headed.
A lot of things to take into consideration and a lot of moving parts there as well. So while we would love to paint a perfect picture of everything we're talking about, clearly that is not the case. But, we always like to talk about some of the obstacles so we can talk about some solutions as well. So what are the key challenges in running inference workloads at the edge? How is Dell Technologies addressing these challenges through its OEM solutions? And then a follow-up to that, how long will it take to get there?
Well, I'll answer it two different ways. One from just kind of a Dell broader perspective, and then the OEM specific piece. From a Dell broader perspective, one of the challenges is it seems like if you're not already doing this yesterday, you're behind. So how do you build the infrastructure? How do we design the infrastructure that can showcase large language models and the unbelievable amount of horsepower that takes? But how can you get out there as quick as possible? So with an AI factory, it's certainly enabling Dell to put all of the puzzle pieces together, sending in full rack integrated networking, all the services that are around it so that it can be dropped into these unique places and enable these customers to be up and running faster than their competition could. There's a whole lot behind the scenes into what I just talked about. I make it sound sort of easy. And of course, our goal is to make it a little simpler for our customers. But then when you get into the OEM side, now we're leveraging our end customers, the video safety and surveillance customers, the healthcare customers, a lot of different verticals around the world that when you look at their commercials on TV, AI is front and center. And they are trying to figure out, okay, how do we integrate all of these things together? And then, oh, by the way, our data is everywhere. How do we go and figure out where our data is, know where it is? How do we know which pieces need to be pulled in? And then how do we access it from these pretty expensive boxes that kind of need to digest it all and then spew out the answers? That puzzle is crazy complex. And luckily for a lot of our customers, we're everything all in one place. And so what we're able to deliver is all the different aspects of the things that they need. Yeah, there's the hardware piece, and you've got the server infrastructure and the networking infrastructure and the storage infrastructure, but then going out and figuring out where the data sits, how to pull it all together, the services that it takes to go utilize all of the things that you need without having to go take a long time and all the analysis that it typically takes to find all of the things that you want to put into the market and put into your product. I feel like we're front and center. I feel like we're right there with our customers. We're delivering the pieces of the puzzle. Now, ultimately, they are going to be the one that says, hey, my IP, my software, it's this ISV as an example, is selling something to enable that for the bigger, broader enterprise customer. But the more we can get them on their journey, if we can get them 40, 50, 60% of the way there, and then they can put their secret sauce on top, they're able to go to market really quickly, and they're able to go to market really successfully. And so then you've got the power of Dell, working alongside the power of UNICOM, which is what we're going to talk a little bit more about today, where we've got this integration chain that allows us to put standard products and maintain supply chain consistency, but then iterate off of that and have the unique things done by our friends at Unicom. And then that product goes to market through whatever ISV, whatever company that needs this engine in their car. It is challenging, but I got to say it's been really positive, and we've seen a lot of growth around how customers have adopted the process.
Can you tell us about Dell Technologies' Native Edge and how it is enabling OEMs to deploy and then manage AI workloads at the edge more effectively?
Yeah, so if you go back to what I talked about at the beginning, where it's 20x the devices, if you ask CIOs, if you ask companies that are deploying gear all over the place, what's your biggest concern at the edge? They will all answer security. And if you think about it, that's just assuming everything else works right. But as we get into how we're going to help customers securely deploy and lifecycle manage an insane amount of devices that they never even envisioned. Sometimes they've got their devices across their enterprise that they're managing, but now it's getting out into telephone poles. It's getting out into things that are on body cams on police officers. It's getting out into situations where the environmentals matter. Take a retail environment, take a hamburger franchise, and you want to roll something out to a hamburger franchise. You don't want to send the smart hands, the expensive hands to go to every single one of your chain restaurants and deploy whatever hardware you have. So a lot of expense and a lot of time associated with that. So Native Edge is a platform that we've developed that helps do all of these things. It helps you to say, hey, can I just send this new platform, whatever it might be, SD-WAN box as an example, send it out to the store. The store manager, who's a hamburger guy, not an IT guy, is sitting there and he can go and plug this thing in and it phones home and it provisions itself. It knows that it was tampered with or not. It's locked from the outside from an environmental standpoint, so it can't be accessed. It uses blueprints so that you can provision one after another after another. And imagine that being plugged in and it provisioning itself and it being up and running. And then you have a centralized dashboard that's enabling you to manage all of these devices, no matter what kind they are, and adding more devices from your environment to this blueprint list and to the secured list of equipment that we provide and make available for this. Now you've got an entire ecosystem. You got a lot of choices of different devices, and you're able to manage that securely. And you didn't have to come up with this stuff on your own. So it's been an incredible key piece of what this edge journey is going to be, because we can come up with the hardware, but it's a massive amount of effort by the people and the security teams and the money to manage this for every single enterprise. We can kind of consolidate that all under one.
You kind of referenced earlier how you really don't want to be late to the party when it comes to what we're talking about here, right? You really want to get front and center and be on it ASAP. So for OEMs considering entering the edge AI space, what business opportunities do you see emerging, and how can they best position themselves to capture this value?
Yeah, I think, there's no speed that seems to be fast enough. So I look at this across so many of the different verticals, and I think that the recommendation is I meet with countless customers across all of these different industries. And really, they all have the same kind of challenges. If you just kind of net out what they are, how do we pull all this together and leverage somebody else's expertise? The people who are the most valuable in the world seemingly are these people that can go in and have these data scientists building these large language models. There's just not enough of these people in the world, so they become highly valuable. You can translate that kind of down the AI supply chain all the way to the edge. ISVs are also they look internally and say, gosh, do we have the expertise that it's going to take to add an incremental revenue stream to our product? Take video safety and surveillance as an example. You have these companies selling their solution. And they have a tremendous amount of data. And with video being one of the cornerstones of how AI can inference and look at certain things and search for people and do all the analysis that we want, those companies are trying to understand, do we have the expertise to get us there faster than everybody else's, or do we need to leverage somebody else's expertise? And so just strictly from a scale and size and longevity in the industry, we've put so many of those things together that I think that we're able to kind of be that ultimate partner and be able to walk through with those ISVs and with a partner like UNICOM. There's no piece that gets them further along the path, or no other way to get them further along the path than we've been doing so far. And we're not perfect. We run into bumps, but I think we tackle these things really well together. And it's become a really big boost for the OEM business in Dell. And ultimately that translates to a lot of sales for our OEM customers.
Speaking about together, perfect segue for the next question. Looking ahead, how do you envision the collaboration between Dell Technologies and partners like UNICOM Engineering evolving to meet the growing demands of AI at the edge?
Yeah, look, if you look at Dell and our model is really to hit, we're a fantastic technology company from a hardware perspective. And we're a fantastic technology company from a software perspective with things like Native Edge. But you know what we're the best at? We're the best supply chain company. We are so good at this. And you can go back and look at all the craziness from the last few years from the pandemic and other things where hard drive manufacturing plant gets flooded, and these disruptions, these things that happen in the world. We're able to maintain consistency and deliver for our customers. And from an IT perspective, that's a really big deal. But from an OEM customer perspective, if we don't deliver, our customers miss their earnings. Our customers miss their quarterly goals. So that supply chain consistency is where we just become the safe bet. So from a hardware perspective, we start to hit kind of the big buckets of those to maintain supply chain consistency. You can't have jillions and jillions of products. So we narrow that funnel a little bit. But when you get into the uniqueness of some of our customer environments, they have some things where they raise their hand and say, hey, I need something that you don't have. Enter our friends at UNICOM. So that customization where they're working hand in hand with the Dell engineers and the UNICOM engineers, it's the customized factory. And that's not just physical work, software work, it's support, it's how we handle warranties and certain things, it's how we go down the path and crazy new technologies like liquid cooling. That is an integral piece of how we supply our customers and maintain that supply chain. So it's not just us. We need companies like UNICOM, and UNICOM is one of our absolute favorites. We spend a tremendous amount of time. We do a lot of sharing behind the scenes that enable each other to deliver on our customers' behalf as quickly as possible.
So as we close things out here, what advice would you give the OEMs who are just starting their edge AI journey, and what key developments should they be preparing for?
Well, my very simple advice is just call us. There's some things that you just may not know. We're a $10 billion business inside of a $100 billion company. But the fact of the matter is people are always surprised about the things that we build on behalf of whatever OEM. Long life platforms, very unique customization. The speed and agility while delivering that supply chain side, my simple advice is just give us a call, because I think that we're going to be able to sit down and provide strategic advantages for your business. And that's not just velocity to get your product launched. That's the stability of your product, and that's maintaining that product along the way so that your customers are just never disrupted. And when Dell and UNICOM work on the long list of customers that we work with today, those outcomes, you got a lot of smiling faces. And like I said earlier, the business has been incredibly strong, leveraging a lot of the AI to the edge boom. but it can't be strong without us delivering on the obligations that we put forward in that very first meeting that said, hey, here's our strategic plan. And gosh, it sounds, I'll brag a little bit, but we are the best in the world at this. There is nobody that can do what we do and maintain continuity of products and maintain the stability and the happy customers.
And of course, we'll have some contact information in the show notes as well. John Green, Global Vice President, OEM Solution Sales Engineering at Dell Technologies. John, thank you for your time. And you lived up to what we started off with the beginning of the podcast. You weren't sure, but I think you handled everything beautifully. So thank you for your information that you were able to share with us all today. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Michelle, for guiding me through it all.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening to the UNICOM Engineering Flawless Execution podcast. Of course, you can visit Unicom's website and subscribe to the podcast to hear more engaging conversations like the one you heard today. I'm your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney. We hope to connect with you on another podcast soon.